Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Sam and I'll be moderating this presentation. So I will be behind the scenes. If you find you have any questions while the presenter is speaking, please feel free to ask away and I will be fielding those questions to one of our AT&T focused financial advisors to answer with you either through phone or email after the presentation has ended. Today we're going to be hearing from Wesley Boudreau, one of our financial advisors here, and Wesley's going to be speaking to you about how to adequately monitor your 401k in such a volatile market. I apologize in advance if he does not get to any of your questions live today. I will make sure someone else reaches out to you afterward, as I mentioned before. He will have some time to answer questions, but it won't be all of the questions, so I apologize in advance for that. You will see some links popping up above Wesley's head here. Those are going to be from me as well. They will guide you to our calendar where you can book an appointment with one of our AT&T focused financial advisors. You can use that appointment time. It is a free 15-minute block of time. You can speak to one of our AT&T advisors about your retirement plan, get started or updated, or answer questions or cover any concerns you may have about retiring from AT&T. We'd be honored to help you with any of that. And lastly, please consider following our LinkedIn, which will also get linked throughout the webinar. You can also follow us on YouTube. We post tons and tons of AT&T related content each week, so we really think you'd get some value out of it if you considered giving us a follow. And if you do, thank you so much in advance. And lastly, but most importantly, please be reminded, we are not AT&T. We are not affiliated nor endorsed with AT&T. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here, so please keep that in mind as you are listening along today. And without further ado, let's jump right into it with Wesley Boudreau.
All right, thank you very much for the introduction, Samantha. And like she said, today we're going to be talking about 401ks. We'll go over some different items like preparing for retirement, different options you have in your 401k as far as investment strategies, how to access some potential income if you need that, different income strategies in 401ks and outside of 401ks, managing your retirement accounts, different options you have there. We'll also talk about running a cash flow analysis and preparing for your potential retirement and what it means to go through there. My name's again Wesley Boudreau, one of the SVP financial advisors here with Wealth Enhancement Group. We'll talk a little about who Wealth Enhancement Group is in just a moment, but myself and a lot of the other the retirement group advisors have been working extensively with corporate employees, helping them retire and transition to retirement for the last 10, 15, even 30 years with the retirement group. But last year, we actually merged or got acquired by Wealth Enhancement Group, a much larger registered investment advisory firm, still an independent investment advisory firm. So provides all the same options we had before with the retirement group, but actually has a lot more resources that are in-house that we maybe had to refer out before. Very simply put, any financial question you have, run it through us. We can help you with pretty much anything. You'll see on the screen there, I'll kind of take a zoom in here real quickly. Oop. And you can look at the fact that there's a lot of different options we can help you out with: investment management, financial planning, tax strategies, retirement income planning, estate planning, insurance and risk management, 401k strategies, all kinds of different things. And a lot of that we provided with you, or excuse me, for you at the retirement group. But some of those, like the estate planning, we may have had to refer out to an estate attorney. For tax planning, you may have had to refer out to your CPA, but we can do all that in-house now. So that's definitely one of the benefits with Wealth Enhancement Group. Again, one of the largest RIAs out there. Again, that's a registered investment advisory firm. A little bit over $100 billion under management. One of the top five RIA firms out there, according to the Forbes list in both 2023 and 2024. Excuse me, through the Barron's list and one of the top through Forbes, accolades through USA Today, and many other different financial news sources out there as well. We do have offices throughout the country, so rest assured if you need to sit down with somebody face to face, we can likely accommodate that. And surprisingly enough, one of the key things you need to be aware of is we've got over a 97% retention rate, which is pretty strong for having over 75,000 households. What that means is once we acquire you as a client, we tend to keep you as a client because of the services that we do provide. So any questions you have in there, don't hesitate to circle in, and we'll be happy to go through it with you. One of the things we do provide, again, this is through Wealth Enhancement Group and the Retirement Group, our weekly webinars like this. Here's a couple of topics we do go over, but there's obviously a lot more we cover as well. You can always, at the end, I'll give you a QR code. You can always follow us on LinkedIn if you want to get updates on future ones, but different things like Social Security planning, um, planning for retirement healthcare. That's a big strategy as a lot of individuals transition from the workforce into retirement. Talk about tax reduction, estate planning options. That's obviously something that's very important to a lot of individuals. We do charitable giving webinars, retirement income planning analysis, definitely a very important one, and pension topics and going over that with a lot of our different individual companies. So again, the retirement group's been working for 30 years with a lot of different companies. A lot of our advisors have a deep understanding of your specific benefits plans, so it allows us to dig into your specific plans, help you understand the pension, the 401k, help you retire medical benefits, things like that. Now, as you transition to retirement, what's going to look like? What are your actual income sources? We talked about that budget before, but we need to make sure that we've got at least a essential expenses met by something that's semi-guaranteed or we know is coming through. Social Security is one that we're obviously going to be receiving. I know some of you may have some concerns about that, but the solvency is probably better than what you think. As far as savings and investments, that's something that you and I are going to have to save on our own in order to supplement Social Security and get that put out there. On the right-hand side are some different alternatives that you may have. If you're lucky enough to have a pension plan, there are not too many companies with those anymore. We do still work with some companies that have pension plans. So there's different options you have on there, whether you take the income as an annuity or whether you roll it over into an IRA for a lump sum distribution. You may also find yourself working. You may have a shortfall and you have to work part-time to supplement your income, maybe until Social Security kicks in or something like that. Or maybe you're just bored and you want to actually continue to work and do something to occupy your time. Excuse me. But ultimately speaking, as you transition from working to retirement, the biggest thing to understand is your budget. You need to be vigilant about making sure that you understand your budget and it's accurate. I can't tell you how many times I've seen individuals go through the process, kind of tell us one thing and actually spend more, and that's where retirement plans can fail. At the end of the day, we're here to manage your account for you, help you understand that budget, help you implement it. But if you start taking out more than what you planned on, we're here to police you and let you know how it can affect you. But at the end of the day, you can keep calling up and keep taking out as much as you want. So be very careful about that. You could have somebody who's got $5 million versus somebody who's got $500,000. I might say the guy with 500,000 might be richer because they're living well within their means. So again, be very, very careful about that and give us a call. We can kind of run through and help you there. Now, as you transition to retirement, there's various different income options you might see, and usually there's not a one size fits all. It may be a combination of some of these approaches work with you. Some of these may be available through your 401k. Some may be available if you roll over to an IRA. Some may be available through your pension plan. So different items we'll go through, like annuities, which is going to be an income stream. Dividend stocks, where you can live off the dividends potentially from different individual stocks. There's more risk there, obviously. Interest from fixed income, whether it be bonds or CDs. Portfolio diversification. This is where most advisory firms, including Wealth Enhancement Group, set the core accounts up. That's based upon diversification between different investment strategies. And there's also managed payout mutual funds. These are a little bit newer. They are in some 401ks, not all of them. We don't use them, but we'll kind of talk a little bit about that for you as well. So getting into the annuity option. So the annuity option essentially, think about like a pension or a Social Security. It's going to give you a steady income stream for the rest of your life. There may be different variations as far as whether it's just your life, whether it's got a period certain on it, whether it's joint and survivor, so it's covering you and a spouse, whether there's an inflation adjustment to it. But generally speaking, there's different types of annuities. There's the immediate where you say, hey, I want to turn this income on immediately. You can defer it. So maybe you retire, but you've got maybe you want to defer turning your income on until a couple years down the road, or maybe you want to grow it more. There could be fixed, where you just get a fixed payment like a CD, or there could be variable, or it should be a fixed index or fixed. There can also be variable, where you've actually got variable investments where you can increase that potential annuity, but there are more fees associated with that. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The downside, a lot of times with the pension plan annuities through your company are if you don't set up appropriately, if you pass away, that may be the end of it. There may not be any more distributions going out to your beneficiaries, so you need to be very careful about that. A lot of times we can look at an alternate option of taking a lump sum and doing a private annuity so you have more beneficiary continuation beyond just your spouse as well. So single premium, immediate, and deferred annuities. Let's kind of get into there. So it's secure. It provides you with guaranteed monthly payments for the rest of your life. Again, there are some different drawbacks. We talked about that income annuity. It means losing control. So let's say you turn over $500,000 to get, let's say $4,000 a month for the rest of your life. That's done. You're not going to see that 500,000 again. It's all up to the insurance company to keep paying that to you. And that $4,000 is not going to go as far in the future because again, you've got inflationary situations. But again, everybody's different. I've actually got one client who's about to turn 90, who's still continues to thank me for just a simple immediate annuity we did about 20 years ago because we ran through the situation. We knew kind of his spending issues, and we wanted to make sure some of the essential expenses were met, so he didn't take any undue risk. And he's continued to thank me forever, even though we may have been better off investing that and growing it. But again, it created a core source of income for them. So the annuities may limit your inheritance for your heirs, like I mentioned, especially if it's beyond just a spousal benefit. That's where a lot of times the private annuities can be more beneficial. You get a cash refund or different continuation options for spouses and non-spouses. And you can also look at inflation adjustment. It'll have a lower starting point, but it can grow over time with inflation. So that way you're not losing that purchasing power over time. Now, as far as fixed index annuities and variable annuities, this is more of an aspect of, hey, I want that potential income on there, but I also want to invest the assets and maybe grow it. So very simply put, fixed index annuities are going to be safer, lower return. Variable annuities are going to be more aggressive, have higher potential return, but also have some losses potential in there, and it's going to be more costly. So a fixed index annuity, essentially what's going to happen is the insurance company is going to tell you, hey, you're going to get either 0% growth or whatever the market does up to the different caps and limitations we put on there. So they can actually adjust those. That's why a lot of times that overall growth is not as extensive, but you do know you're not going to see your account go down. And a lot of times they may have there may be no cost for that unless you're turning on the income. And they've got very high income rates that may be even better than an immediate annuity. So it's really definitely worth comparing. There also may be long-term care benefit options, things like that. On the variable annuity side, you're able to actually invest your assets into different mutual funds like you would a 401k plan. So theoretically, if the market does well and your investments do well, you could increase your income payments or increase your balance over time because of that. But there are higher fees, so there is a little bit of a drag on there. So it's very important to kind of look at these side by side. If you have any questions, let us know. We can dig into that for you. Now, as far as interest and dividends, we talked about again before. You may invest in different stocks. You may have a company stock, maybe it's Exxon, Chevron, AT&T, whatever it may be, and they're paying a dividend on there. And you may say, "Hey, I just want to keep I want to keep my 401k where it is and collect the dividends. That's doing something for me." Then I may or may not have appreciation in that stock. So you could have the best case scenario is that stock keeps growing and it keeps paying dividends, so you're doing well. Worst case scenario, that you still get the dividends, but the stock declines, so they kind of wash themselves out. A lot of times you want to make sure you diversify the portfolio. You can't have all your eggs in one basket and all just in one stock. So that's important to review that as well. A lot of times those are built into a diversified portfolio. You also may have different fixed income instruments like bonds or CDs, money markets that are paying interest. That interest, depending upon the way it's structured, is typically going to be taxable. Again, if you're talking about a 401k or an IRA, that doesn't really matter because there's no taxes because it's tax deferred until you physically take that money out. So it can grow. The interest payments are not going to affect you tax wise. It's only going to be when you take those withdrawals from there. And then again, keep in mind dividends are never guaranteed. We can see companies drop or reduce or eliminate their dividends. And then the interest, like we said, is often taxable on the other options. So in a taxable account, it becomes an issue where you may want to look at municipals and things like that to reduce or avoid taxes. Total return investing. This is really kind of what Wealth Enhancement Group and most advisory firms are going to focus on with you. That's going to be kind of going through a cash flow analysis, figuring out what you need to achieve to meet your goals, and then backing into a diversified approach in order to do that. And usually that's going to be a diversified approach using stocks, bonds, CDs, mutual funds, ETFs, maybe alternatives, things like that, and set that up to generate a specific yield for you, so you can take that out year by year for your retirement expenses. But again, retirees will tend to either construct this on their own or work with a Wealth Enhancement Group or another company like us. It does allow for flexible withdrawals because you can stop, start, take out whatever you want. You can update your tax withholding if you want as well, so it's more flexible than what a 401k is usually. But again, there also comes that risk. If you become too aggressive, and we go back, we have a 2008 to 2009, you could lose a large chunk of that portfolio. And if you don't stay the course and you have knee-jerk reactions, you can start trading it, and you can be on the opposite side of it where you're actually over trading it, and you may see a drop in the market, you may go to cash, and you may miss the rebound. So there's a lot of different things to be aware of there, and we'll be happy to kind of run through those different options with you. As far as the managed payout funds, like I said, these are kind of newer. Really think about it like a diversified portfolio, but a mutual fund doing it for you. So it'll be a fund, kind of like the age-based funds will be diversified between stocks, bonds, money market CDs, things like that. But instead of a focus on how far out from retirement you are, it may be a focus on generating a 4 or 5% payout rate or something like that. So again, not many people use them. Some 401ks have them. If you come across or have questions, let us know. But typically speaking, just like the age-based funds, if you're retired and you have an IRA, there's a lot more beneficial options by working with an advisory firm and structuring something specific to you and not just these cookie cutter approaches there. And so let's go through kind of a, excuse me, like a quick example. Again, as just an example. Everybody's different and unique. So what we do is at Wealth Enhancement Group, we're not a cookie cutter firm where everybody goes on the same approach. Our job is to run through a cash flow analysis or financial plan back into what you're trying to achieve, kind of figure out your risk tolerance, figure out what risk you're willing to take, and match those up and try and achieve that with as low risk as possible. Or if you're focused on more growth, we can focus on something more growth. We may split the strategies. We may have a strategy that's going to be focused on your retirement income, another that's focused on your legacy building. So again, all these are different. But let's take a look at this example. Let's assume a married couple, 65 years old, for simplicity. They've got a desired monthly income. They need about $6,000 a month, so 72,000 a year. They're lucky enough to both have Social Security covering about half of that, so about $3,000 a month, which means they have a gap about 3,000. They've got an IRA for about $1 million. So the question is, okay, how do we take that $1 million IRA? How we fill that gap of 3,000 a month? Really not that hard. So 3,000 a month, that's 36,000 a year. So that's really just a 3.6% withdrawal rate, which most places you talk to are always going to say, 4% or lower is going to be sustainable for perpetuity or at least 30 plus years. A lot of times with proper management, that withdrawal rate can be higher. So these individuals might have the luxury to be as flexible as they want. They can be more conservative. You can go out there and get money markets paying over 4% right now, or they might want to be a little more aggressive, or they might want to compartmentalize things. So let's look at an example of them maybe compartmentalizing things. So maybe this specific couple says, hey, look, we know we want to potentially grow this money for our children, but at the same time, we want to make sure we're protected. And when we talk about that 6,000 of spending, most of it's going to be essential expenses. Maybe $5,000 of that's essential expenses. So they say, look, Wesley, we don't want fluctuation. We just want to make sure that our immediate needs are met, and that essential expenses are always going to be there no matter what happens with the market. So we may look at some options. They may say, okay, well, let's supplement that Social Security. Let's put another $2,000 of income in our pockets. So we've got 5,000 guaranteed no matter what. They may decide to look at an immediate annuity between the two of them that pays joint for life, about 2,000 a month. That may cost them about $360,000. So we may say, okay, well, let's go ahead and diversify the rest, but let's leave something in higher interest money markets to cover the short-term needs. So maybe they leave $40,000 for simplicity purposes here. That's a little bit over 3 years worth of that $1,000 a month income that they could take out. So they know no matter what's happened with the market, the next 3 years are pretty stable for them. So that extra 600,000, they may diversify in a 50-50, 60-40, 40-60, some sort of allocation. And that's going to be geared more towards growing and replenishing that 40,000 that comes out year over year. And it's also going to be there for inflation hedge and to grow their legacy for their beneficiaries, or maybe they want to beef up their retirement spending and stuff as well. So again, just a quick example gives you a good idea of an overview. But again, everybody's unique and different in this case. So whenever you decide to access your 401k, there's likely going to be taxes unless you put everything in there after tax, which I don't think I've ever in 20 plus years come across somebody that did that. So what's going to happen is qualified distributions are going to be taxed as ordinary income. And depending upon how old you are, if you're under 59 and a half, they could be actually, there could be a 10% penalty on top of that. So you need to be very careful and aware of that. Also, after-tax contributions, you're not going to pay taxes on the cost basis there, but the growth in there would be taxable once you decide to take that out. And you may have Roth 401k contributions. These are more recently started, but those are going to be the contributions plus the growth is going to be tax-free. So again, very important to kind of understand all these options and go through there, especially if you've got a couple more years or more for retirement. We can run through and help you plan the best strategy for saving. As far as once you do retire, it tends to be that I'd say 85, 90% of people tend to roll over to an IRA because there's a lot more investment choices, more flexibility on the investments, more flexibility on the tax withholding should you need to start accessing it, more flexibility on withdrawal strategies, things of that nature. So a lot of times you may want to consider looking at rolling that 401k to an IRA. There are other options where you may want to say, hey, let's keep it in that 401k because maybe there's an age 55 rule applying to you. Maybe you got some specific mutual funds there you like that aren't available outside. Maybe you got that low cost, or maybe it's like that simple set it, forget it, you're a DIY person. But traditional IRAs, again, are going to be tax deferred. You pay taxes at the end of the, once you start taking those withdrawals from there, just like you would the 401k. Roth IRAs are going to be tax-free growth where you're not going to have to pay tax on there as long as it's been there for at least 5 years and over 59 and a half. So again, strategies to be aware of on there. We also get into Roth conversions where we can take money from a 401k or IRA, convert it year by year into a Roth IRA. So now it starts to grow tax free and minimizes your future RMD you may need to take out in the future, which in this case is going to be either 73 or 75 for most of us nowadays. So the requirement minimum distribution we just talked about is once you start getting a little bit older, IRS comes knocking on the door and says, "Hey, look, we want to get our taxes, so we need are going to force you to start taking withdrawals." Good news is it used to be 70 and a half. They bumped it up to 72, then they bumped it to 73. Now they're bumping to 75. So they are extending that. But essentially, if you're born in the 50s, once you turn 73, you need to start that RMD. If you're born in 1960 or later, it's not going to be until age 75. You can withdraw more than that, but you cannot withdraw less than that. If you forget or withdraw less, they can come back and penalize you. So it's very important to understand this. There are different ways if you don't need that where you can do qualified charitable distributions and things like that. We can get into with you one-on-one there as well. So this table, a lot of people ask me, well, how much do I have to take out, Wesley? There's a very busy table here, but very simply put, once you start taking that RMD, it's roughly about 4% when you start it, and then by the time you get to about 80, it's about 5% or so. You can see the divisors here. So if somebody is 73, it's 24.7. So you take 100 divided by 24.7, it's a little bit over 4%. Out at 80, it's going to be closer to about 5%. And if you're lucky enough to make it to 100, it's closer to about 15%. And if you make it to 115, you got to take out about half of your portfolio at that point in time. So the goal is to kind of wind it down over time so the IRS can tax you on that and get that out of there. As far as the all this kind of tying together, like I mentioned before, the best strategy is to run a financial plan or a cash flow analysis, however you want to call it. Right now, about three-fourths of Americans over 50 don't have a written plan. So if you can spend about 10 minutes with us gathering some data, and it may be more intensive if you want to dig into the budget, but give us about a couple days or so. We'll put together a detailed financial plan, run through that with you, and let you know where you stand, let you know if you're on track to retire when you want to. Should you make adjustments? Should you spend less? Do you need to work longer? Could you go earlier? And we may run variations to show you different options on the pension or 401k there as well. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it is pouring. So why the retirement group? Like I mentioned before, the retirement group for the last 30 years has been working with Fortune 500 companies to help them transition into retirement. We've been working with a lot of different individual companies, so it allows our advisors to have a deeper understanding of your specific benefits plans inside and out, whether it be the 401k, healthcare retirement, medical benefits, pension plan, life insurance continuation, things like that. We have offices throughout the country, and now with Wealth Enhancement Group, we have a lot more offices. And again, we've got that complementary cash flow analysis. I can't change the rain, so we'll have to kind of push through this. Hoping you can hear me. I'll talk a little bit louder in this case. We're going to wrap this up. I do see some questions come through, so hopefully you'll be able to hear that. If you want to schedule a meeting with us, go ahead and use the QR code right here. And you can get into our appointments and set an appointment with myself or one of the other advisors. If you want to follow us on LinkedIn, there's a LinkedIn code here. So you get into our LinkedIn account, we'll follow along there as well. And with that, the two questions that I had here. One is, what if I'm not 59 and a half yet? Is there any way to avoid the 10% penalty? So I kind of threw out there that age 55 for a second. What's going to happen is if you're over 55 or the year you turn 55 or later when you leave your 401k plan, but you're not yet 59 and a half, you can take a withdrawal from there without that 10% penalty. Otherwise, if it's like a first-time home purchase or qualified educational expenses, some medical expenses, you can avoid it there as well. If you're in an IRA, you can do what's called a 72T, which is a substantial and equal payment. So you can set up different payment plans so that you get a certain amount each year for the next 5 years or until you turn 59 and a half, whichever is longer. That's a way to avoid that penalty as well. And with that, I'm going to wrap that up because this rain just, I think this is kind of killing us. I'll circle back to these questions that we missed here as well. But I hope everybody has a great day, and we hope you can just call. It's 800-900-5867. Thank you.